So, Michael, what is it about Sam Fisher that brings you back to reprise the role again and again?
Money, absolutely the money. They're paying me fortunes to do this.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
There's the UbiSoft people sitting over here. No, they're not. No, I actually came back this time. I told the during the other press that I said no after the fourth game. I was done. I really wanted to do more. I didn't like the direction the character was going in. I didn't like the unaccountable violence. I thought the storyline had gotten very thin, and it was also the idea of being a weapon or a stick of the government. And this character isn't. This character is operating on itself. It's more based on trust issues. It's more based on the idea of him wanting people to be accountable for their actions.
Okay.
And in the sense that if you lie, you're a liar. If you steal, you're a thief. You use size and violence to get your point across. You're a terrorist and a bully. And it's more about Sam and less about Sam being a representative of a regime or a bureaucracy or a government.
Gotcha. Because he's always had that independence to him.
It's more of a rebellion he's had. And over the years, I didn't like the fact that when you rebel, you end up defining the thing you're rebelling against as much as you do yourself.
Right.
And
now, one of the things I've always liked about Sam is that he's not typical of the other action heroes of this genre. He's not a young pup. He's not like, Jason Bourne in his 20s or James Bond is often defined in his 30s. I love the fact that right from the beginning, Sam has always been...
I'm a little old to be playing Sam. Voice-wise, I'm all right. But I think Sam's probably in his mid to late 30s. I just turned 60, so...
Well, that gives Sam a little bit more of I guess, a sense of experience.
There is a maturity. There is a maturity. There is a logic to him that I don't think is in any of the other. At least I haven't seen it in a lot of the other characters and stuff like that.
No, very, very unique. Now,
and I got to give UbiSoft credit for that. When we first started out, I actually accepted the job and then said no to what we were talking about in another interview. When they sent the first game over, I said no. It's just this two-dimensional, violent excuse for slaughtering people. And then they said, well, what would you like to do? And we rebuilt the character. And I actually, when we did the first recordings, had other voice actors in it, so that we brought people in to react with to build up the relationships and stuff. And set that basic format for the character off that first game, which I think got thin by the fourth game. Even though the fourth game was a good game, the second and third. But we tried to make him more human.
Yes.
As human as you can within a format of violence. There's about a good 10 or 15% of this character that I hope people will be able to identify in these modern times where you don't trust bureaucracies.
Correct.
We have governments lying, we have major manufacturers lying, we have FDA saying, oh, we made a mistake.
Sure.
A lot of people saying, oh, I'm sorry, we might have rushed that because of the dollar.
Yeah, and then apologies later.
Apologies later with, it's almost like, I'm old enough to remember the Fligamite scares in the 50s.
Okay.
The late 40s and stuff where people, apologies don't really cover, you've done a lot of damage out there. And that's the base of this character, I think, this time around, is this lack of trust. You are your actions, you have to be accountable, and he doesn't really trust anybody.
Right.
Now, hopefully, when a person injects themselves into a game, they're not there just to sort of blow somebody's head off.
No, and that's something that we often see in video games. Video games, as I guess an art form, is still quite young, it's quite immature. A big popular game that just came out, God of War 3, is much like what you just described, where it seems to be all about
But there's an interesting thing I think that happens around the Sam Fisher and the Splinter Cell games, is that it attracts a certain persona or personality of players. I mentioned it once before, press on other games. I have people that come up to me and say, "Oh, you're Sam Fisher," and they do it online, and they end up while they're talking to me, I am the instant message or communicate with other people all around the world, and there seems to be a more conscious player who plays this game.
I definitely think of the Splinter Cell series as sort of being.
I'm not putting other games down. I'm not saying that.
No.
I just the people that come up and ask me about Sam are everything from lawyers and top-end businessmen all the way down to guys that are riding skateboards. Not that skateboarders can't be lawyers, but I'm talking about from every walk and every socioeconomical background. And they come up and they'll say stuff like, I was talking to one indication I was talking woman talked to me, she was from Joburg.
Okay.
And she'd been talking to somebody in Bangladesh online while they were playing with somebody, I think, from the States or Melbourne, and they were asking about a food riot in Bangladesh that they'd seen on CNN. The woman in Joburg said, and the woman from Bangladesh said, no, there was just a bunch of people that couldn't get their food stamps, and they trucked them over to the other office across town. She said, but in the news, she said the news was lying. You get, it's almost like, who would think that games and a gaming platform would allow you to have instant communication with people from all over the world?
Right.
You know,
And I guess one of the advantages is that the game is so long, it allows for an extended discussion of those topics.
I think I think not only an extended discussion, but you have to be accountable. You know, people can make choices on who they want to talk to. You get to know who the person is, who you're playing it. I remember one father talking about that him and his kids, he was traveling a lot, and he used it as a way of connecting with his kids.
Nice.
Which I thought was, I remember sitting there saying,
yeah, unexpected.
so let's go slaughter some people tonight. What I tried to do with this character was make him somebody. When you go to a movie, you go into a dark room to watch a movie, what you do is you basically say, lie to me. I'm going to let you lie to me. The audience gives up the gift of truth. And when you tell a story to somebody, you basically are lying to them.
Right.
And you're supposed to be responsible for that kind of insecurity, because an audience is not supposed to be there.
Okay.
Now, gaming is an offshoot of that. There's a window of another world that you're sitting and watching, and you allow, if you can make the character that much more accessible to the person playing, so that they feel more comfortable interjecting themselves into that character or identifying with that character. I think there's a responsibility in the gaming for UbiSoft to make that character at least be slightly more responsible towards the player, and I think that's what we're doing with Sam. We're giving him a conscience. We're giving him at least some ethics and some morals. It's not just a straight up, let's blow somebody's bloody head off for the sake of the special effects and the artwork.
No, you're raising questions. And
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
But when it comes, no matter how you come down to it, it's always going to be, it's going to be a game.
Now, is there a movie or a character that you looked up to when you were growing up? Is there somebody that embodied a sense of what a man is about, or what a...
Yeah, Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh, excellent.
I saw that. My father was very much like that too. I remember thinking he's like, I remember when I read the book, I was so young, I had to ask my father what a lawyer was.
Right.
What an attorney was, because I didn't know. My father was interested, my dad was very well read. So was my mom. My dad said, well, and we had just seen Hornblower, the movie the night before at the local theater. And he said, think of the man that was playing Hornblower. Think of him playing Atticus. And when they made the movie 6-7 years later, it was Gregory Pecker played him. But,
now, Sam Fisher, of course, is well known for all of his gadgets and fun tools that he gets to use. Are you a person that has an affinity for gadgets or tools?
no, I'm a bit of a Luddite.
A Luddite, okay.
I touch things and they break. I had one of those days yesterday.
Did you?
I broke my car.
Oh,
The car that I keep in Montreal, I broke it. I attached the cables on the wrong side of the battery and blew
Okay.
out all the fuses and the security system. And then I lost my earpiece from my phone, and while I was looking for it, I stepped on it.
oh, nice.
On a nice brand new jawbone. And when I replaced it, I was talking to my daughter, and I took it off so the wind wouldn't bother her, and I lost the earpiece. So yeah, I had one of those days. Everything I touched turned to crap yesterday. No, I'm not really. I tell you what I am, though. I'm somebody who can't sit somewhere unless I know basically how everything around me works. If I didn't know how the basics for electricity or carpentry or design, how these chairs are molded, how that fabric's made, I have one of those minds where I'm constantly curious about how things are constructed. I wouldn't feel comfortable. I'm a person that never gets lost.
Gotcha.
You know, I always know where north is.
Okay.
You know.
You always keep your bearing and your senses.
I think it comes from being in a large family. I had 97 first cousins when I was growing up. My mom had 18 brothers and sisters. They all had
Gosh.
And finding out who you are and what you are is based upon where you can either get in or get out of a situation. And my dad was one of those people who always co-signed taking things apart and putting them back together. I was one of those kids that would take the toaster apart.
Nice.
But I could put it back together.
Excellent. All right, well, thank you very much, Michael. I appreciate that.
That was